Hi, good evening, good afternoon, and good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight on your number one show, The Niger We Want. Joining me now is Mr. Wale Olaiton. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Vicky. It's good to be back on our number one show, The Nigeria We Want.
Yeah. And I believe we have Mr. Yemi Shodimo in the green room. Yes. Welcome, Mr. Yemi Shodimo.
Thank you very much. How are we today? Good to
We
see you,
are
Doc.
good. Nice to
Good to
see
see
you
you,
too.
Wally.
Nice to
Yeah,
see
good to
you.
see you, Egbon.
I picked it up
Yes,
that
nice to see
you
you guys.
started a new trend, which is asking those in the diaspora, comparing things and asking people what are their thoughts. So it's different from what the trend that you used to have, which was Mr. Olaiton
Ìjì àgbádùn báyìí. Are we all right?
right now. So it's a new trend which I like it, and I just read people's comments, you know. Um
Yeah,
yeah, so how have you
thank you so
been?
much. Well, I'm actually reaching you from a place called Mudeke in Osun State.
Oh, next to
Mudeke is
Ife.
just by Ileife. I'm here for an event
Mm.
and just had to squeeze time out for this. I just needed to, since I missed out last week.
Oh, thank
But
you.
it's great to be with you
Thank
guys.
you.
It's great to be with you.
Thank you for joining us. And Mr. Elvis Wachuku, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good evening, fellow panelists, and good evening, viewers. Good to be back again.
Nice to be back.
Elvis, it's
And
nice
let's
to
give
see you.
let's give Mr.
Same here,
Elvis
Egbon.
a round of applause. 2 weeks in a
For-
row.
oh, I feel like I'm being thrown under the bus now.
No. We're just appreciating you.
That's all right.
No, but I must say that that's what you get when you go rollicking on a boat in the sea.
Oh, really?
Having fun.
Because the
Um,
flow of the sea is like that, right? So,
yes. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. So, tonight we have another topic that we're going to be going deep into. But before we do that, our first segment, which is all about what is trending, is what we will be focusing on for now. So let's go into what is trending. For me, before I go jump in, I'm gonna go first. The thing to do with lecturers asking for favors from female students, it's another news that is raging at the moment, and I'm really liking the response so far. The particular lecturer, the law lecturer, who had been accused as being, they're dealing with him at the moment. So I'll get Egmont to expand on that, because I know it's really, is talking about it a bit. So Egmont, are you still there? Or is frozen?
yeah, his 2G is frozen now.
2G or 1G, whichever one. All right, Mr. Elvis, you can go.
All right. Nothing. Everyone here is not aware of already. So it's what's trending for me is what's happening in the political landscape in Africa with a lot of social commentators also obviously making comments about the trend right now. I think Africa is at the point where it seems like there's a revolution going on with what's happening in Mali, Burkina Faso, and now recently um, uh, Niger, where the leaders of these countries, even the people of these countries, are hell bent on um, kicking out their former colonial masters. For me, that's a good thing. Niger is rated one of the poorest countries in the world, yet blessed with so many. Uranium is there. It's a natural resource that powers the nuclear plants in Europe. I think America as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, it's time. Africa is waking up and they're trying to negotiate better deals and stand up for their rights and be able also to enjoy the resources God has planted in the ground for them. So that's what trending for me.
Mm. Wow. And there was some news recently about the army saying they've been told or been asked to take over in Nigeria.
There's a standby force if you're referring to ECOWAS. Some of the ECOWAS leaders have backed down. They don't want to be seen to be fighting their brothers. But, Nigeria is I think, alongside the Ivory Coast,
Mhm.
alongside, a few other countries who have threatened the use of a military force. But at the moment, I think there's still negotiations going on. I hope we don't come to a situation where you have, Africans fighting their fellow African brothers. That would be a really bad
Sad
sight to
situation.
behold. Yeah, it wouldn't be good as well,
Mm.
especially given the fact that these guys honestly don't mean well for the Africans. If we start talking here today, we're not going to leave here on this. If you hear the deal that France signed with their these former colonies that they used to administer, when they got their independence, they made them sign a treaty that all of their resources will be mined by France. France will have the first right of refusal. Both the resources they've got right now and the ones that are yet to be discovered in the future. And if France has no interest in undertaking the mining, France also has a right to um, recommend who comes in. These guys hold their foreign reserves in the French bank. I think the French central bank. 80% of their foreign reserves are held in these banks. When they need to borrow money or to use their own money to do stuff in their country, they are required to pay interest for taking out
What?
their own money. Yes,
Money.
exactly right. Yeah, they require to pay interest. So it's at that point where I'm fully. I wish there was something more I could do rather than just speaking on this set. But they've got my full backing to take their resources or to take control of their resources and negotiate better deals for themselves.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you for that, Mr. Elvis. Mr. Wale Alaiton.
Um, what is trending for me? Nothing
You've
much
been
really.
watching too much soccer.
Yeah, I just think
Well,
that Elvis has raised a very important point. And even though I've not been following that, particular, topic, but with what I know about what is happening, I think I will add a few points to what he has said. Anything about control of resources in Africa is something that we all have to support. I
Mm.
think as a student of politics, way back in university, one of the books that was a kind of eye opener to many of us was a book written by Walter Rodney called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. That was like a Bible to any young comrade in those days that you want to get into political activism. And it's sad that we are, 60 years after independence, we're still witnessing a lot of some of these issues across the continent. So any efforts by government to really negotiate better, fully in support, as Elvis said. But there's one part of me that is also very, very skeptical. I'm always very skeptical of the military. Because if you look at the history of military interventions in Africa, They all come in and they two do all the talk. We witness that. We grew up, under military rule in our country. We remember all those, siren and sounds on the radio and TVs, coup after coup. And they make a lot of promises, get people on their side, and then they do worst. So there's one part of me that is happy with people rising up and demanding what rightfully belongs to them. But there's one part of me about the military and the history we have with them. They will do the talk initially, get the people on their side, and then they strike and become the big oppressors of their own people.
Look at Mugabe.
Many of them,
many like
we
that.
can count many of them. So that's just one part of it. But just to buttress the point that a lot of things are going on that shouldn't be happening 60 years or 60 whatever years after independence to many African countries. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, Wale, you make a good point. I also, you make a good point. But in addition to that, we also have political leaders, democratic in quotes, who are staging political coups as well. Take, for example, the guy in Ivory Coast. It's been touted out there that the only reason why he's backing the invasion of Niger is only because he was supposed to be there for 2 terms. He's amended the constitution to suit himself. He's on his 3rd tenure right now. Yep. You've got the guy in Cameroon who's been there for, is it 40 years or more?
Paul Biya. I've never known any other. I've never known any other Cameroonian president.
Since I was born, it's always been for Biya. Yeah. So I really, and these guys are mere puppets to, as long as they're doing the bidding of their colonial masters, they're happy with them. So any effort at challenging the status quo is usually met with violence, with defiance. About 26 coups have been staged in Africa by France. 16 of them was by France. And the 16 head of states that they removed were those who were challenging the status quo. We can't continue being slaves, my brother. Rather than have the status quo remain, let these guys try. If he works, he works. If he doesn't work, there'll be other people who will come and overthrow them. Anyway.
May God help Africa. So let's get into tonight's topic. We will be discussing the topic, Nigerians groan more over rising cost of living as Naira depreciates further against the dollar. So Mr. Wale Olaito, the Intercontinental moderator.
Yeah, you haven't said that tonight, so I've been waiting for that. So Thank you. You said that about 14 minutes into the program.
Sorry, Elvis distracted me.
I've been looking at the time now.
Elvis distracted me. Let's blame Elvis for it.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Vicky. And so, courtesy of our producer, Mr. Alabi, I quickly provide, background to tonight's topic. Nigeria, Africa's biggest economy and most populous country, has a peculiar economy, such that when market forces cause hike in prices of goods and services, they hardly come down again. This situation has worsened the economic hardships faced by Nigerians over the years. With the birth of a new administration on the 29th of May and its renewed hope agenda, it appears the more Nigerians hope for things to get better under President Bola Tinubu, the harder they become. After the federal government removed subsidy on petrol, the resultant hike in cost of goods and services, especially transportation in the country, piled more pressure on citizens who are lamenting over economic hardship. Another angle to this is the continued depreciation of the country's currency, the Naira, which caused further increase in cost of items like petrol after its value went further down to as low as 950 Naira to $1 in the month. While interventions by the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, have brought some stability to the Naira, which now exchanges for 750 to 760 to a dollar. Prices of items are yet to stabilize in the country as citizens continue to groan over rising costs of living. Assignment of portfolios to the ministers designate with strong focus on the economy also elicited some hope, but the journey ahead is still long and challenging. So, when will prices of goods and services, especially petrol, stabilize to lessen the suffering of Nigeria? So, I go straight to the panelists. I'll throw that question open, and I just have to be very conscious of time. I give you, 2 minutes each. Is there any hope of stability or reduction in the prices of items in the country, considering the indices that we are currently facing? I'll start with Mr. Shodimo.
My apologies today. It's like I'm the one in the 1G zone, but it's okay. Please just let me just manage. I've been looking for places where to get network. I've worked all over this place. However, straight to your question. The unfortunate thing is that when prices in Nigeria do not respond favorably to the law of gravity, when they go up, they stay up. Most times, except you have the mass production. Yeah, except you have the mass production of such items that will make supply dwindle demand, right? When you have that, yes, that will be obeying the simple law of economics. That things go down that way. But apart from that, we still keep hope alive. We're hoping those in authority will get it right. But I can tell you there's a lot of pains out there. There's a lot of groaning out there. Anything you touch is expensive. And it's just that Nigerians, there is this degree of perseverance that's probably unequaled in any place in the world. That's why we just keep rolling on and on. And of course, giving the new administration the grace of time, hoping that they will really properly settle down and fix things. But that is not to say that they're not getting the big parts. That's not to say that. But I can tell you, we will just want to keep hope alive. That is the only way to stay alive.
Thank you, Mr. Asholim. So, on that same question, I go to Dr. Vicky. Is there any hope of a stability or reduction in prices of items in the country, considering the current situation?
Unfortunately, I can't see that happening. And why is that? Because things were already bad. Things weren't in place. But when you now look at not just Nigeria, not just Africa, when you look at around the world, things are extremely, extremely expensive. I received my power bill for 2 months, and that was around $2,000. Gas bill, I mean, these were like 300 and something dollars in the past. Now you're looking at thousands of dollars. And I opened that gas bill and I was just like, how do people manage? You go to the shop, only, $50, one bag, one small shopping bag. That is a place that has system in place. That is a place where they have social security in place. That is where they have the system that is working. Now, when we go to Nigeria, where things were already in a very bad state, and this thing is happening over there, I can't see anything changing. It stays up the way it has been. But how people are still staying up, it baffles me, because you need this inner strength to be able to cope in the face of scarcity, in the face of hunger, in the face of all these things happening over there. You need the bigger inner strength. And I think probably that's why churches are blooming, because, like Edmond said, hope is all that we can hang on to.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Vicky. On the same question, Mr. Washiku.
All right. Well, Mo has said it all. Nigeria defies the law of gravity. Whatever goes up stays up there. Never comes down. However, in saying that, I want to also stress that the rising cost of living is not, peculiar to Nigeria alone. We have seen increased cost of living almost the world over due to inflation. But what makes Nigeria's case worse is the fact that we are an import-dependent society. And what do we use to import? We expend the dollar to do all of these imports. What's the rate of dollar today? You and I, as everyone knows, is gone sky high. And therefore, if the businessman goes out there to purchase his products, he's exchanged his Naira for the dollar at a really high rate. What happens is he's going to transfer that high cost of purchasing the product, his freighting and clearing and all of that, to the last man on the line, the consumer. So as long as the exchange rate is that high, I don't see the cost of products coming down in Nigeria. Again, even if we were to imagine that the dollar exchange rate will come down, I know in Nigeria, wherever there's an issue, a problem is meant to enrich certain classes of people. I can only envisage a situation where even if the dollar rates came down, business people want to take advantage. They're still going to keep the price at where it would have been before the exchange rates comes down, if it does come down. So whether we're going to see prices coming down, I'm quite pessimistic. In my honest opinion, I don't see that happening.
Thank you, Mr. Onwashiku. So let's go into deeper discussions around, government response. The government appears to respond, but, I want to hear from panelists here, the extent of their response, or maybe some of the responses so far, they're just so rudimentary in terms of the approach. For example, the government has called for, and this question is for Mr. Shodimo, the government has called for patience and announced another set of palliatives of 5 trucks of rice and 5 billion naira each to the state to cushion the effects of petrol subsidy removal. To what extent can this alleviate the suffering of the masses? To what extent can we trust the state governments to utilize the 5 billion, considering the corruption in the country, to utilize the 5 billion allocated to estates, and also 5 trucks of rice? How are they going to distribute that? And to what extent can that really alleviate the problems, Mr. Shodimo?
I'm a bit worried about the amount of energy being expended on the issue of palliatives. We've gone through this cycle before. And when you talk about palliatives, you're talking about handouts. We've gone through this. We had the experience during COVID, and it was a disastrous outing. It was a disastrous outing. There might, in fact, I see it as a kind of panic measure. I see it as a kind of panic measure. I'm not too sure that is what Nigerians are asking for. I'm not very sure. But let us also note the 5 billion we're talking about, 5 billion naira we're talking about, is a loan to states. And 2 billion, quoting them, has been sent to the states. There was a memo that came out clarifying the status of this money. There is a moratorium of about 3 months, after which they're supposed to pay back over, is it over 20 months or so, particular amount. Now, the 5 billion is optional, according to that memo. It is optional. Optional in the sense that you can decide not to take it. And in this case, if you take a decision not to take it, you return the 2 billion naira sent to you, hoping it's still intact. As to the issue of trust, experience has made one very wary and very cautious of sticking out one's neck to what can happen when this money is disbursed. We've not had a fantastic record of doing it right, because in this instance, you will be wondering if it's only party faithfuls that are hungry. Because, believe it or not, in some places, the issue of party loyalty comes to play in this institution, in this situation. So, how much of this will be kept out is left to us to ponder and to imagine. I can tell you that there are some state governors that will really mean well, that will want it done properly, but they cannot be everywhere. In some places, it will be disbursed down to the local government, and the local government chair or the party people within the local government want to satisfy their own people or play to the gallery. And then come to think of it, how many people can, how many trucks did you say now? How many people can I get that? On mute, please.
Sorry.
Yes, how many people can? You are going to mention the number of trucks.
5 trucks per state.
5 trucks, yeah.
How many people
Would that feed?
will that feed? Lagos State, 5 trucks will disappear within Ikeja local government. Just that local government. So if it's just for the records that palliatives have been done, maybe. I would have thought, and quite a number of Nigerians, I can tell you that for free, would have thought that, okay, wait a minute, we have this situation at hand. What can we do about power? What can we do about power? What can we do about transportation? Right? Because if you give Nigerians power, the average technician, the average person would have the good reason to go out there work for his or her own money and feed his or her family. If Nigerians can move from point A to point B without emptying their accounts, it will go a long way. There are certain things that we could really use the bulk money for and change the face of things. But okay, since we are having 5 trucks of rice, let's see how far it will go. But I'm not overexcited about it all. I'm not overexcited, frankly. I'm not.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shodimo, for analyzing that particular question. And I think it's just government for whatever reason. And we've said it many times that it's still very early, but we also need to start raising the concerns. But because during the campaigns, the kind of rhetoric, they look very prepared, and you think that they have very sound policies to to address some of the issues. But if you begin to see trend of, look, they initially came up with the idea of paying 8,000 Naira to individual accounts. People raised concerns around that, and and they kind of went away. One would think that they'll come up with something more better, probably more pragmatic. They've come back again, nothing with 5 trucks of rice and 5 billion to each state, and it could become just an opportunity to look after party members. We hope not, but with the level of partisan politics we play, it is something that we need to raise that concern as soon as possible. So moving on, and I will go to move things around a little bit. I'll go back to Dr. Vicky now. Fuel price and exchange rates in the country are critically linked, with great impact on cost of living. What can the government do to stabilize the two in terms of exchange rates, and also in terms of reducing cost of living? In your view, I know I don't want to put you on the spot. You are not an economist.
You're already putting me on the spot too.
Okay, so let's look at this from these two angles. Let's just take ourselves back to our basic economic classes. Government generally have 2 policies in terms of what they call fiscal and monetary policies. Those are the policies that government globally use to control the economy and stimulate growth. Specifically, the fiscal policy, they are geared towards reducing poverty and promoting growth, and they deal with taxation, and also they deal with spending. So we haven't seen much on that. And there is the second part is a monetary policy, which they use to control the amount of money in the circulation. So let's look at that fiscal policy. Have we seen much from this government in terms of their taxation or in terms of their spending? If you look at in terms of the spending, if they are still giving billions of Naira to the people in the National Assembly, and if they are still giving billions, allocated billions to buy SUVs, do we see a government that really want to address the issues? If they can't control their spending, if you can even start the discussion from that angle of trying to,
and that's the angle my mind went to, because
okay,
when you're in charge of a business, you're in charge of something, you look at what's my expenditure, what's my income. All right,
income.
that's how
Yep.
you put them together and say, okay, oh, I'm really doing well, or I'm not even meeting up at all. And then you tie your whatever you have to tie your girdle really well. So we're looking at their expenditure. If what they're paying themselves, senators, honorables, presidents, or whomever, if they're still paying themselves the same amount or even more than necessary, because with what we've heard that they've been paying themselves, is it worth it? Is it really worth it? If they're still doing that, they're not showing us that they really want to make things easy for common men. It's like they really don't care. And that is why they are jumping over each other to get there, because it's still the same business as per usual for them. So things are really hard. Things are really tough for everyone except them, because they have it all easy. So that's the major way they can, if they can reduce, cut down. I mean, there have been some countries that that's one of the things. One African country, I can't remember precisely which country, that the senators, um, they ask for reduced pay or something like, I can't remember where. I can't remember where now, but there
Yeah.
was a country like that, you know. But you can't be watching your people groaning in agony, because they can't feed their family, because they can't pay their hospital bills, because they can't buy medications, because they can't travel from one point to another without emptying their bank account and not do anything, and not do. I mean, I listened to you talk about 5 trucks of rice. To do what? Remember, what's his name? This Ekiti state governor in the past, um, Fayoshe, stomach infrastructure. What would that do? People eat, they forget now. But that's not making any impact. That's here. That's what individuals do. Okay, you cook food, you pack it, you give it to people. Businesses, they do the same thing. That's not the role of the government. That's not their role. Their role is to try and make life easy for common men, not to be packing the rice. By the time the people that they put in charge, they first of all keep 4 trucks for themselves and their family. They now put 1 truck out there for the whole of Nigeria, 200 and something million people. What kind of nonsense is this? It's quite disappointing, honestly.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vicky. You've really looked at that economic, question. I think we all taking back to our economic classes, way back in secondary school or maybe early tertiary institution. Just it both started it anyway. It both started with demand and supply. So I think we're all going to tap into that tonight. And tapping into that, we look at the basic economic problems in the world. That people ask, why do we even study economics? The 3 basic questions that economics want to answer. Number 1, what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. Any economic, students will understand that those are the basic problems that economists want to settle. As a nation, after 60 something years of independence, we've not been able to answer that basic question of what to produce as a nation that we end up this foreign stage. What can we produce and how to produce them and for whom to produce? Those are the 3 things that economics just want to answer, but it's as if we've not been able to really answer that basic question. If you have been able to answer those basic questions, I would think economically we should be in a better position, and we should be able to earn good money, through the international trade outside, the crude oil. I'll go back to Mr. Onwashuku now. Mr. Onwashuku, you delved into this earlier when you were talking about businessmen, raising dollars to, export items, and obviously they're going to pass the cost to the consumer. But there's a bit of excitement after the NNPC secured $3 billion crude for cash loan to stabilize exchange rates in the country. So just a bit of context, they got that loan from African Export-Import Bank, Afremix Bank is called. The the crude for cash one, the explanation, because I did a quick read on it just to be sure about it. It's not a swap. It's not swapping, crude oil for cash, but it's a form of upfront cash loan, um, against production, against future production of oil. So that is just what that's, the most important part of that, crude for cash loan. They are not swapping our crude oil for money, but it's a bit of, upfront kind of loan that is, based on our, future projection of our production. And then they give us that money. And obviously, my question would be, can this really bring stability to rising cost if you are able to have more liquid dollars in our economy? Mr. Washiko. On mute, please.
We can't hear you.
Yeah. Well, if you permit me 30 seconds, I'll just touch on the is it the 5 billion naira palliative?
Okay.
Yeah, it was. So with that one, it's actually 52% of it is free, and 48% is meant to be paid back, and that's been approved by the National Executive Council. Now, as our moderator, as Wale stated here, another crude way of approaching the problem. I don't see how that's going to resolve the issues. We have at hand. You're going to be loading 5 trucks to each state?
Yeah, 5 trucks.
Right? So what's that going to do? Okay, where's the tomato? Where's the groundnut oil to cook the rice? Where's
where's salt?
Where's the salt?
Maggie and stockfish.
These guys are honestly, they have another thinking coming. Anyway, back to the real question. So, yeah, well, I did just a quick research as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so that fund is geared towards supporting the federal government with their fiscal and monetary policy reforms aimed at stabilizing the markets. And one good thing I also came across is the fact that it will save Nigeria from borrowing from approaching the IMF, who of course when we approach them, it costs us an arm and a leg. This loan is going to be, the repayment of this loan is going to be between the rates of 8 to 11%. And if it does, lead to the lower exchange rates, I think the way they're sort of thinking is a stronger Naira will equate to lower fuel prices, which of course will transcend into other areas of of the people's lives, and may reasonably reduce the cost of living. But it's one thing to this is not the first policy we're seeing. We have seen policies where you need to get this dollar from the banks directly from the commercial banks. And what happened? People were hoarding the dollars, at the banks, and you only could get the dollar for your transactions or your international travels only if you knew someone in the bank. And what did that do? It wasn't the situation. The dollar wasn't anywhere because people were actually hoarding the dollar. I don't know what approach the FG is intending to take with this one. Honestly, if applied appropriately, I see that it may have some positive effects. So all of this is dependent on how the policies are implemented. Is that money going to end up in in people's pockets? Is it going to be distributed as intended originally? So it leaves much to be desired. I mean, I'm sorry to say, when anything goes back home, but as per the intention, yes, the intention is is clean. It looks to me as one that could help resolve, at least reduce, not resolve totally, reduce to a minimum the impacts of, I mean, what our people are going through right now. But do I trust the guys who are actually running the show? That's another question altogether. The intention is good, but the real question is, are they going to implement it? Is all that money going to end up somewhere where the trader or the businessman who needs to access that dollar, are they going to hoard it to just keep that dollar sky high? So these are the real questions that need to be answered before we can say yes, it's going to happen. In the real world, in Australia, yes, it's going to work because nobody's going to pocket such money, But with the level of corruption that goes on back home, well, my answer is I really don't know. But the intention, if you look at the intention, yes, it can lead to, resolving some of these issues we have. But who are the guys who are actually going to be implementing this? Are they going to do it, with the intention that we want to solve the people's problem, or are they going to further enrich themselves? That's the real question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Onwashiku. So we're moving fast now. So I want to go to a particular area where we talk about the new ministers designate, and I will throw it to each panel member, and then just to get your views. And looking at it, the president has assigned portfolios to ministers designate, and we have seen creation of new ministries like blue economy. The World Bank defines blue economy as the sustainable use of ocean resources to benefit economies, livelihoods, and ocean ecosystem health. Creative arts, social services. So those are the new ministries, newly created, ministries. Should Nigerians be excited about a buoyant economy? And looking at this, I want to put one. I'll start with Dr. Vicky to talk about social services. Based on your experience within social services in Australia, what do you think social services will add to the value of our economy? I will give Egbon creative arts. It's looking good. Egbon will talk about economy around creative arts, and Mr. Anwashiku will talk about blue economy. So I'll start with Dr. Vicky.
These social services, it's quite disappointing that it's not a ministry that we already have. How can a country not have a social services minister, social services portfolio? How have you been doing it? How have we been doing this without that? So it's quite disappointing that we don't even have it in the first place in the past. It's a good thing that at least they are getting started. But when it comes to economy, social services are responsibility of the government. It's not where government is expecting money back. It's a portfolio that government put money into it because it is to have more like a safety net so that nobody gets to the bottom. That is the job, that is the role of social services in any country. So I hope I get that part right.
Yeah,
It's
you're
not
getting it
where
right.
money comes in, or it's that government expect money out. It's a place money that government put money into it. Government pays staff to do the job of looking after people within the country, and all that kind of stuff. So um, its role in the economy, I would say, I think I've explained it in my own little way.
Okay, thank you. Egbon, creative arts.
Yes, what about creative arts? We are hopeful. I guess the person put there is not a total stranger. The person in charge of the ministry is not a total stranger, but I can tell you that we are open. But at times we get fixated with what federal government is doing and ignore some things that some states are doing. Because just on the lighter side, the governor of Osun State has just appointed a senior special assistant, government house, in charge of swimming pool.
We had one in Imo State, Commissioner for Happiness.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So we at times you just wonder. It comes back to my question. Are we really okay? Let's hang it on hope. Let's hang it on hope. It looks a bit over bloated, I must say. The cabinet looks a bit over bloated. And the other thing is that the expected level of action by the generality of the people has been laid on the doorstep of the cabinet not being formed. Now the cabinet is formed. 21st of this month, they'll be sworn in. Let's see if they will hit the ground running. I can also not forget the fact that a man with 2 credits is in our cabinet as well. I don't know. There are 1 or 2. You've asked me about creative arts, but unfortunately, I have to expand this a bit. There are 1 or 2 people that you feel very comfortable with in terms of assigned portfolios. You look about finance, you look about justice. These are, without any doubt, there are no, I'm not sure many Nigerians will be disappointed at the people appointed to this, given these portfolios. There are some that might surprise us, that we probably think will not do as much. Some might surprise us, but some non-performance will not be a surprise in some areas. Let me leave it at that for now.
Thank you. Blue economy. To be honest, I saw a few posts on Facebook. Nigerians and their jokes. Which one be blue economy or which one? Like, people were just, making fun of that. So, which one is blue economy?
And Wale, I'm going to ask you, which one is blue economy?
Yes, now, it's
blue sea. Like blue sea?
Yeah. Well, what I understand, it's the sustainable use of the ocean resources.
Ocean resources, yeah.
Yeah,
and the economics of it.
Yeah, improve the livelihoods, creation of jobs, while also preserving the health of the of the ocean. Yeah.
Ocean, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a totally new concept for us in Nigeria. Honestly, I'm not gonna make any pretext. It's new to me as well. It's only in the course of this program I started, looking at it. What that ministry or what they intend to do with that at this rate, I can't really say until they start actioning it. But I also I digress a bit. I've read, this in recent times, this will be the largest cabinet that any president, in recent times would have had. These days of hardships and the rising cost of living, you would think that a government would look at pruning down their expenses or the cost of running government. Some of these ministries, in my opinion, can actually be merged also to reduce the impact or the cost of running these ministries and the impact thereof on our people. That worries me. Another concern I have with that list is some names that made it to that list? Would it be the case of compensating? You want to compensate people for? I mean, the same old people, former governors. We've heard the case of what is it called? Is it Rufai? What's the other guy's name? The one that has said he's no longer interested. El Rufai. Is it El Rufai?
Verify, yeah.
Yeah, so this same, we keep seeing the same people over and over again, governor, then come to minister. Are you rising, or are you actually coming out? So I really don't understand it. But I'll add a few words to, the one you posed to Dr. Vicky. So in that space as well, for the social services side of things, I don't know whether we're really ripe for it. Ideally, in an ideal world, we should be able to have, the social service system in Nigeria, if things were right, that will look after people who need such services. I mean, here in Australia, it goes beyond. I know Dr. Vicky has covered most of it, but it also, the social services here, is Centrelink not part of it? Centrelink should
Yeah,
be part of it.
Centrelink, yes,
Yeah,
it's major
yeah,
part of it.
yeah, you got the social housing. You provide housing for
Yeah.
homeless people. You pay people on a weekly basis or a fortnightly basis. People who don't have jobs, you pay disabled people disability support pension. You pay the young ones who are attending school some money in their pockets because they're not working or not working full time. So these are all of the areas that the social services also looks at. Now, are we really ready for that? Have we got enough resources? Ideally, we have, but again, with corruption, everything ends in people's pocket. I usually make this argument where people say Nigeria is at the level where we should be paying social security benefits to our people who are lacking. And I mentioned this here one time. You see what happened during COVID? Where we thought the world was going to come to an end. Take away social services in Australia here, you will see the rate of crimes will increase here. That's probably why we have a lot of crime in Nigeria, because the government is at the moment not looking after our people. So if they can make it work, it will be a good thing.
Okay, thank you. So I go around the team now. I'll give you 30 seconds each. I'm looking at the time. 30 seconds each. Your final words. I'll start from Mr. Yemi Shodimo. How can we get out of this in terms of alleviating suffering of our people? If you got 30 seconds with Mr. President, what will you tell him, Mr. Shodimo?
Yeah,
Unmute, please.
Unfortunately, I would first mention to him about the Calabar University professor, which I couldn't mention because of
Okay, please mention it now. Mention it now.
The one, please. So permit me to just use my 30 seconds for that. In other words, what I'm saying in essence is, I will tell Mr. President, there is a randy professor in the University of Calabar that must not be allowed to get near our girls for any reason. I will commend the girls for speaking out, and that's the man there. I'll commend the girls for speaking out. I would rubbish his defense, which was a very watery defense that he gave concerning some enemies within the department. I will commend Professor Obi, the Vice Chancellor of that university, a female Vice Chancellor, who has taken the bold step of suspending this man and ensuring that it does not come within the premises until the work of the panel is done. I will also urge that panel to do a thorough job, while I will urge the university to involve the police, because this is a criminal case. It goes beyond just talking about just harassment and all that. It's a criminal case, and I will involve other graduates of that university who have gone through hell in the hands of this man, including a lady called Nelly, who gave a picture of what it was to be a student, a female student, under this man. I think that's my 30 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Shodimo. Your 30 seconds with President Tinubu, Mr. Nwachukwu.
I'll be saying to our president, Nigerians are, the Nigerians are suffering. A lot of people are living in in penury. Wale, I tell you, I hear the stories here every day. Of course, you and I know Dr. Vicky here. We're inundated with requests for supports to friends. Sometimes when I get a call from Nigeria, I try to avoid asking how are you. Once I ask how are you now, I don't die you, bros. The story starts. But as much as I avoid that question, it still finds its way into the conversation. So people are suffering. People are suffering. Please, they just need to do something to alleviate the suffering of the people. I mean, you can only push a man to the wall. You don't expect that man to open the wall and keep moving. One day there's going to be, people will react one way or the other. We're talking about the spate of crime, university students. Sometimes you see some boys who are caught on TV, they speak in impeccable English. These guys have been through the uni. And sometimes it's not like we're defending anything. It's because people don't have any other option. And then they start looking at crime. So the earlier they do something about the suffering of our people, I think it will go well or better for our society.
Oh, thank you. So I give Dr. Vicky our own 30 seconds with Mr. President, and then she can close the show. Over to you, Dr. Vicky.
Thank you, Mr. Wale Olaito. My 30 seconds with President Tinubu will be advising him or instructing him actually to to cut down how much all these big tummy people in politics are earning. The senators himself, give us 12 months of reduced half of the whatever you are making, cut it down. Let's cut our expenses. I tell my kids, okay, turn off the lights now, turn off the heater now, because we do that. Why can't you people just look at the poor masses and do something? It's always about you. Let's, through these 12 months, okay, we are going to cut it down. They won't like him. They won't. But it's something that needs to be done. You are eating 2 meats before. Let's cut it down to 1 because we want this to go, everybody, we want them to have a share. That would be my main advice to him. Cut down how much you guys are taking home.
Thank you. And on that note, again, you can close the show, Dr. Vicky. I'm sure.
What is your own advice to?
My own advice, I will just summarize what you've said. People are suffering. Do the needful. His polity is not about just the rhetoric. He's prepared for this for his life. So it's not like, even though he's been there for 3 months, we know he's been hoping to become a president for the past 30 years or so. So it's not an accidental president. He has prepared for this. Let's put all those words into action. People are suffering. Do the right thing by the people.
Thank you.
So that will be my 30 seconds. Over to you, Dr.
Well done, well done. And I'm sure somewhere Tinubu will hear this. So hopefully, maybe by next week, we'll have good news from him doing something. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you to all our panelists for showing up today. Egmont, thank you for taking time out from your busy schedule to be with us for an hour. Mr. Evison Wachukwu Igbokwenu, welcome. Thank you for being here. And our intercontinental moderator, Mr. Wale Olaito, thank you for being here. We appreciate all our viewers that joined us and all those that will be watching later on. Thank you for your time. Please bring your comments on, and we'll be back again, same time, same place, next Friday, 8:30 Australian time, 11:30 Nigerian time. But till then, you all take care. May God bless you. Bye, everyone.
Good night.
The Nigeria we want. Great Nigeria. Giants of Africa. The Nigeria we want. Great Nigeria. The Nigeria we want. With Yomi Folaji. Yeah, me show the moon. Wale Olaito. I can see what Shuku. The Nigeria we want. Great Nigeria. On big ocean. The Nigeria we want. Nigeria.